Hello everyone! I think it's about time we do an update on this channel, VerticalThird, and where we're going in the future. But first, a quick recap on what VerticalThird is and how it got started. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to help us with the algorithms. And without further ado, let's get into it. Back in 2018, we entered the Epic MegaJam and created CastleDay. In 5 days, we created an online King of the Hill battle arena. The first to collect the golden pot at the top of the hill would become royalty, and you would fight to stay as king or queen as long as possible. As royalty, you would boot players off the hill and stun them with cringy dad jokes.
Want to hear a joke about pizza? Never mind. It's too cheesy.
Why did the crab never share? Because he's shellfish.
We streamed the entire event and had a little spark of hype within our community. So we kept on building and created a version 2.0 and 3.0 of CastleDay. You can check those out on our Start Gaming YouTube channel. At this point, we really need to optimize our workflow for creating new classes, combat, quest systems, and overall an easy way to add new content to CastleDay. So we got started building our tools, and those tools kept growing and growing and growing. Not just from combat, but from quests, scoreboards, inventory, everything. At the end of 2019, we received our first Epic Mega Grant. This was for both CastleDay and VerticalThird. But the grant was still pretty small, so we had to kind of pick one or the other. So it really became a fork in the road for us. With our own experience being indie devs, and thinking about the mountain of work it is to build a game, we really thought the industry needed an all-in-one solution to help speed up development and save money. With our experience pitching games, it's a common thing that really innovative ideas are very hard to fund. A lot of that becomes because they're too risky for publishers or investors to take on. So VerticalThird is trying to de-risk some projects by allowing you to focus on the new things that is for the future of gameplay experiences. On that note, VerticalThird is a play on words for vertical slice. The original intention was for VerticalThird to be at least 33% of your game. In indie fashion, we overscoped the project completely, and it is much more than that at this point. And finally, VerticalThird is blueprint only. And this is something I'm very adamant about staying. The usability and speed of blueprint coding is just too good to give up, and something I really want to promote in the industry. Blueprints also allow a lot of different types of people, coders, artists, and designers, to all come together to be able to work on a game. The next thing we found was the huge lack of information around proper game architecture. There's a lot about how to build an ability or build a specific system, but rarely are guidelines to structure your whole project. And even then, that can be very specific to a certain game engine. This is where we really put our heads down for 3 years working on VerticalThird. I was creating systems, working on optimization, workflow, and designer tools. And then when I'd learn something new, I'd rebuild the system. This is just one small point where I want to make a note that Chris and I have 3 children, and one of which is very special needs. He's 14 years old, nonverbal, still in diapers, and so VerticalThird is something that we're not just trying to help the industry for, but it's really something to create our legacy and something we get passed on to our own family as well. We were finally able to launch VerticalThird in June of 2022. The next month in July, we launched our online tech demo on itch.io, which later got moved around November-December to the Epic Game Store. We'd appeared on the Unreal Engine livestream in December of 22 with a 3-hour feature going over many of VerticalThird's systems. That year was very big for us, and boy did it feel good to hit that magic ship button. Shortly after 2023, we received our second Epic Mega Grant. This one was much bigger than the last one, and it really helped us upgrade our computers, hardware, kind of develop an environment, and really plan for the future of what we can do with VerticalThird. I can't express enough how much passion we put into VerticalThird to be something really, really helpful to the industry. With game development cycles getting longer and costing even more, then there's the risk of your team being laid off or studio closures. We truly believe game architectures are the next logical step after game engines. I've used this slide before and where VerticalThird sits in the game technology stack. And let's face it, games are constantly shipped with duct tape, band-aid fixes, because there just isn't enough time in our development cycles to architect everything properly. We have budgets and milestones, and we just have to ship it. And this is where game architectures are really going to come into play. Well thought out systems that are easy to use and constantly improving. Our lessons learned throughout development will constantly improve our tech. It'll make games easier to make and designer tools more intuitive to use. When game developers are spending less time on routine systems like combat or questing or inventories, they have the time to really experiment and explore new innovative game experiences. Of course, with all that being said, as many indie game developers find out, launching a product is hard. Marketing is hard. And as we found out, launching game tech can be very hard too. It is a very slow process to prove that your tech is worth adapting to and learning. And we continue to make improvements through 2023. At that point, we had an opportunity come up to work for Epic Games, and this is something we just couldn't resist. We were hired to work on some education projects, the first one being the UEFN Boba Shop. This is where you can learn how to use the in-editor 3D modeling tools for both UEFN or Unreal Engine. That was our shorter term project. The next major one was the Epic Games Game Design Professional Certificate on Coursera. We handled courses 5 through 8, visual development and audio design, user interface design, user experience design, and finally, game development and prototyping. We poured so much soul and effort into this because we know how hard and difficult Unreal Engine can be to learn. We've experienced it ourselves. So we really wanted to give a helping hand to the next generation of developers. In Course 8, Game Development and Prototyping, we bring you through the game mechanics to create 6 different game modes. There's Stealth Survival, Platformer, Action Combat, Capture the Flag, Crafting, and Story. Of course, the Coursera project ended at the very tail end of 2024. This is where we found the industry having massive layoffs and tons of hiring freezes. So this is where we really decided to shoot for a project that would prove out VerticalThird as game tech. As a result, Ruins of Tearyn has been born. This will be a small MMORPG powered by VerticalThird. We worked on this part-time from November 2024 to April 2025. During this time, in January, we launched our announcement trailer. We reappeared on the Unreal Engine livestream twice, one for building and sustaining communities, and the second time featuring Ruins of Tearyn itself. And then finally, in April, we had our first online community playtest. This was so much fun. We had players from 7 different countries log in and play with us. We got to take them around the world and introduce them to the mechanics we're designing. We grinded some XP and had some good laughs. It was really nice to see how people were already enjoying our game direction for Ruins of Tearyn in such an early span of time. There were some hilarious moments watching our players, and there were some really fun times where we gave them all cheats at the end, and we all became super powerful and killed everything. Building Ruins of Tearyn is a dream game to come true, and using VerticalThird is going to bring us there. This is also our major way of following Epic's model of Fortnite and Unreal Engine. Fortnite improves how they build Unreal Engine, and we want that same relationship with Ruins of Tearyn and VerticalThird. All of our performance optimizations and workflow things, we're going to take all of those improvements and bring them right back into VerticalThird to share with the greater games industry. And finally, for where we're going in the future, we really want to double down and talk about game architecture. A few topics I really want to deep dive are blueprint code paradigms, file organization, workflows, localization, server authority, inter-system communication, file naming conventions, optimizations, and user interface. While I'll be using VerticalThird as content examples for a lot of these discussions, I'm trying to keep it high level. This is so it can be applied to all game projects and not just specific to Unreal. I'll leave the integration up to that game developer and what they're accustomed to for, say, Unity or Godot. So no matter what game engine you use, there should be some big takeaways you can bring to your own projects. And if you got this far in the video, thank you for listening. If you have a topic you would like to see discussed, please leave it in the comments below. And we'll see you in the next one.